we have seen the kinds of enthusiasm and energy that is remarkable, and it's an indication of how badly I think people are looking for change right now. They understand that we can't keep on doing what we've been doing. They are responding to a message that we can bring the country together, that we can push the special interests and lobbyists out of setting the agenda in Washington, and they're particularly responding, I think, to the idea that we need some straight talk with the American people about how we're going to meet the challenges ahead.
Let me turn to Pakistan. Do you believe the election scheduled for January 8th should be postponed?
Well, I think the key is to make sure that there is legitimacy to those elections. And given the enormous tragedy that has happened, I think that it is understandable if those elections are delayed slightly. But it's important that they are not used, that this is not used as an excuse to put off indefinitely elections. And so my main concern is making sure that the opposition parties feel comfortable that they have the opportunity to participate in fair and free elections. That also means, by the way, that we reinstate an independent judiciary in Pakistan, that they are making sure that there is a free press, that the campaigning can proceed, because our primary interest is making sure that whatever government emerges in Pakistan is viewed as legitimate. And one of the things that we haven't focused on is that the vast majority of the Pakistani people are moderate and believe in rule of law. That's who we want as allies in the fight against Islamic extremism.
Benazir Bhutto was on Meet the Press October of 2001, shortly after September 11th, and we're going to post that entire interview on our MSNBC.com website. But she offered these words about General Musharraf. Let's listen. If, in fact, there are elections a year from now, will you return back to Pakistan and run for Prime Minister?
Well, I would very much like to return to Pakistan and run for Prime Minister again. And my party has been urging the military regime to have negotiations that can facilitate such a transfer. We would like General Musharraf to assure me that I could return in safety and contest those elections.
That I could return in safety. Do you believe that General Musharraf took the necessary precautions in protecting Mrs. Bhutto?
Well, look, I think an investigation has to be completed to determine how the suicide bomber got as close to the former Prime Minister as he did, what exactly happened, and that's why it's so important for us to ensure that we are providing all the assistance we can to the Pakistani government, and that the Pakistani government is pressured to include opposition figures and people who are credible in the investigation process. Until we know exactly what happened, I think it would be premature to judge that. What I do know, though, is that moving forward, we have to have credible elections, and we have to continue to pressure the Musharraf government, as I said back in August, to focus on the problem of Islamic extremism in Pakistan. And the fact that Al-Qaeda and the Taliban have taken root in the northwest provinces, it is now starting to spill over into the rest of Pakistan. This poses a grave danger. Benazir Bhutto herself recognized increasingly that this was one of the greatest threats to Pakistan and also to stability in the region and to the United States of America. And we have to ensure that whoever is in power is taking that process seriously.
The Washington Post said in an editorial that Mr. Obama committed a foul, and some of your comments and some of your staff comments to the situation in Pakistan. Specifically, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that Senator Clinton's vote for the war in Iraq in any way, shape, or form led to the events that transpired in Pakistan on Thursday?
No, of course not, and that's never what any of my aides said. They responded to a question as to would this tragedy in Pakistan in some way advantage Senator Clinton as a consequence of her having been in Washington longer than I have. And my staff said that I think candidates will be judged based on the judgments they have made. And they made then an indisputable, I believe, comment, although the Washington Post, I think, may disagree with this, and that is that by going into Iraq, we got distracted from Afghanistan. We got distracted from hunting down bin Laden. We got distracted from dealing with the al-Qaeda havens that have been created in northwestern Pakistan. This is not an assertion simply from our campaign. This is what military commanders on the ground have indicated. This is what our national intelligence estimates have shown, that al-Qaeda is stronger than at any time since 2001. And so if we are measuring who has the judgment to lead the country forward in dangerous times, I'm happy to put my record against those who have said, for example, that we will go along with President Bush on the war in Iraq.
But a vote for the war in Iraq, in your mind, distracted us from Pakistan, and that could have led to the situation?
I am not drawing a causal relationship between any single vote and the tragedy there. The tragedy resulted from a suicide bomber. But what I do believe is that if we are going to take seriously the problem of Islamic terrorism and the stability of Pakistan, then we have to look at it in a wider context. What we do in Iraq matters. What we do with respect to Iran matters. What we do with respect to Musharraf matters, and not giving him a blank check and conditioning military aid that's not related to terrorism on him opening up the election so that there's greater legitimacy and less anti-American sentiment in Pakistan. Those are all parts of a broader foreign policy, and I believe that I'm best equipped to chart that new direction in foreign policy that will ultimately make America safer.
You are a freshman senator. People have raised the issue of your experience, whether or not you're ready to be president. A former president by the name of William Jefferson Clinton addressed that very point.
Right.
Let's watch the Charlie Rose Show.
And we're prepared to roll the dice. It's less predictable, isn't it? I mean, when's the last time we elected a president based on 1 year of service in the Senate before he started running? I mean, he will have been a senator longer by the time he's inaugurated, but essentially once you start running for president full time, you don't have time to do much else.
Are we prepared to roll the dice? Is America rolling the dice on Barack Obama? You've been a senator just for a couple of years.
You know, people, I think, here in Iowa have been lifting the hood, kicking the tires, asking all the candidates questions, and the reason that we are doing well is they recognize that the real gamble is for us to keep on doing the same thing over and over again, accept the conventional Washington wisdom, expect that somehow we're going to get different results from that. They understand that if we want to solve health care, if we want to do something to make college more affordable, if we want a new foreign policy, then we have to have somebody who has a new vision for how we're going to move the country forward. Somebody who believes in the transparency and accountability of our government, somebody who has a track record of reducing special interests and lobbyists' power in Washington, somebody who on foreign policy issues has shown the judgment that, in fact, bears out over time. And that's the kind of leadership that I've shown. That's the reason we're doing well, and I suspect that that's where the people of Iowa are going to want to see the country, in a new direction.
Well, when someone says, Senator, you've never had an executive position, you've never had to make executive decisions, you've only been in the Senate just 2 years, why don't you wait? Why do you have to run now?
You know, Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of now. I think that there's such a thing as being too late. I don't want to wake up 4 years from now and find out we've been having the same arguments with the same lack of results. I don't want to find out that more people don't have health insurance, or that once again we've sent our troops in to fight a war that didn't need to be fought because nobody had the judgment or courage to ask the tough questions. Now, I have great respect for former President Clinton, and I would expect that he would defend his wife. You know, he is on the campaign trail at this point. I would simply point out that the same arguments that are being made with respect to me were made with respect to him back in 91, 92. And I have more formal foreign policy experience than he did.
But he had been a governor for 10 years.
Well, but that's my point. My point is what happens is that when Washington gets challenged with respect to change, then their immediate response is, you haven't been in Washington long enough. And the people of Iowa and the people of America, I think, recognize that there are other measures of leadership and there are other measures of experience than simply having been in Washington. And so my experience is rooted in the real lives of real people, and I think that'll be will bring real results if Americans have courage to change. And by the way, that's a quote from Bill Clinton back in 1991. He was right then, I'm right this time. I'm ready to lead this country in a new direction.
You called Hillary Clinton the master of a broken system. What does that mean?
Well,
she's the master?
You can't argue that you have mastered Washington, and that's why you are the best agent to bring about change. I mean, the fact is that I have consistently talked about taking America in a new direction, and I've also lived it. On issues like campaign finance and lobbying reform, I passed the toughest ethics reform legislation since Watergate, preventing lobbyists from buying gifts and providing meals.
But you also said the last time I was out here at the Jefferson-Jackson dinner,